What is literally the hardest thing to do in the entire National Football League? Like, is it executing a flawless 2-minute drill with absolutely no timeouts in the blistering cold, or is it drafting that elusive franchise quarterback? Actually, scratch that. It's neither. Winning a Super Bowl, yeah, that's legendary. It takes crazy talent, a little bit of luck, and this perfect, unwavering alignment of the stars. But defending that crown, man, defending the crown is an entirely different beast. It is an absolute psychological and physical nightmare. Honestly, it's nearly impossible. Because the exact second that confetti hits the turf, there is a massive, glowing target painted right on your back. And the ruthless mathematics of the salary cap, yeah, they immediately begin to tear at the very foundation of the team you literally just built. Welcome to the premier explainer of NFL Nexus. We don't just look at the highlights here. We actually dissect the anatomy of the league's absolute most compelling stories. So if you want to really understand the game behind the game, do me a huge favor. Subscribe to the channel right now, like this explainer, and definitely drop a comment below on what you think is the real key to repeating as a champion. And hey, if you really want to support the deep dive analysis we're doing here, consider becoming a channel member. Because today, we are dropping straight into the intense, high-stakes off-season drama brewing up in the Pacific Northwest. We're looking at the Seattle Seahawks, and we're examining the true, hidden price of an NFL dynasty. Act 1. The franchise face. At the very center of this completely cinematic redemption story is quarterback Sam Darnold. I mean, just think about his journey for a second, right? Drafted high, cast aside, labeled a total bust by so many people. And then he finds his home in Seattle. He does the absolute unthinkable. He brings the Lombardi Trophy back to the Emerald City. He reaches the literal pinnacle of the sport. But in the NFL, gratitude has a very, very short shelf life. Now, the immense, suffocating pressure to repeat rests almost entirely on his shoulders. The honeymoon is officially over. The expectation now is perfection, $100 million. Just let that number hang in the air for a second. This massive figure represents the 3-year contract Sam Darnold signed last offseason. On the surface, it sounds like absolute security, right? It sounds like the team handing over the keys to the kingdom. But if you look closer, this is actually the ultimate low-risk, high-reward bet by the Seattle front office. It is a masterclass in roster management, built to protect the franchise, not the player. The glitz of that 9-figure headline, it totally masks a very cold, very calculating reality. Listen really closely to these words from ESPN's Dan Graziano. He has no money guaranteed beyond 2026 because the Seahawks don't build future year guarantees into their veteran contracts. Let the heavy weight of that sink in. Despite winning a Super Bowl ring, despite leading this team to absolute glory, this 29-year-old quarterback is effectively entering a ruthless contract year. There is zero safety net here. One bad hit, one regression in his mechanics, one poor season, and that $100 million mirage, it completely vanishes. He is fighting for his professional life all over again. Let's actually break down the hard numbers, because it's fascinating. His base salary this year is $27.5 million. He's got another $4 million sitting right there in incentives. And if, and literally only if, he survives and thrives, his 2027 potential salary jumps to $35.5 million. The Seahawks are incredibly deliberate about how they value their quarterbacks. They outright refuse to mortgage their future. They are forcing Sam Darnold to play absolutely flawless football to earn a top-of-the-market extension. It's a total double-edged sword. His individual stats might go up, sure, but in the eyes of the front office, nothing is going to be considered a success unless he hoists that Lombardi Trophy again. He has to prove the magic wasn't just some crazy fluke. Act 2. The Unsung Hero. Okay, so we are stepping out of the bright spotlight now and into the brutal, blue-collar margins of the roster. Because the real truth about the NFL, the truth about building a lasting dynasty, is that championships are not just won by the superstars. No way! They are forged in the trenches, by the nameless, faceless players grinding away on a random Wednesday afternoon in November. So, I gotta ask you a question. Who truly saved the Seattle Seahawks season? When the walls were completely closing in, who made Super Bowl LX possible? It wasn't Darnold throwing a 50-yard bomb. It wasn't some high-priced free agent. It was the most unlikely of heroes, a player whose name barely even registered on the scouting reports of opposing defenses. 8th. That is literally the number of targets this player saw all of last season. Just 8 targets. I'm talking about Eric Sauter, a 9-year veteran tight end, a journeyman who, prior to this one defining moment, had made just 21 career starts and barely topped 50 catches for 400 yards across nearly a decade in the league. He is the very definition of anonymous, yet he somehow became the absolute savior of the franchise.
Picture the scene. It's Week 16 against the Los Angeles Rams. The tension in that stadium is thick enough to cut with a knife. It all comes down to a two-point conversion attempt that is guaranteed to be the final play of the game. The NFC West title is literally hanging in the balance here. If Seattle fails, the Rams win the division, and the Seahawks' entire path to the Super Bowl probably evaporates. The ball is snapped. Defensive terror Jared Verse comes crashing off the edge like a freight train. And who is there? Eric Saubert. He perfectly chips Verse, totally neutralizing the threat, before leaking out into the end zone. The pass is thrown. Caught. Walk off. Without those literal seconds of perfection from a third-string tight end, Super Bowl LX just never happens for Seattle.
Now notice the incredibly stark financial disparity here. On one side, you have Sam Darnold's massive $100 million deal. And on the exact opposite end, you have Eric Saubert's $2.13 million extension. Seattle actually signed Saubert to this extension just days before that legendary Rams game. Why? Well, because an offensive coordinator Fleury's system, just like Kubiak's before him, the run-heavy, tight-end-centric scheme totally demands players who can block in the trenches. Sure, they have A.J. Barner breaking out, they have second-round rookie Elijah Arroyo, who's a pure receiver, but Saubert is the gritty enforcer. He might only play 20 snaps a game, but those snaps are the bedrock foundation that allows the $100 million quarterback to actually shine.
Act 3. The ticking clock. We really must confront the severe physical toll that a deep championship run takes on a team's foundation. In Seattle, that foundation is unequivocally the ground game. And the brutal, unforgiving reality of the NFL is that the human body just is not meant to withstand this level of violence for 20-plus weeks a year. There are very few things more devastating in sports than a torn ACL. And it happened to Zach Charbonnet during the absolute playoff war against the San Francisco 49ers just weeks before the Super Bowl. Charbonnet was an absolute machine last year. I mean, he rushed for 12 touchdowns. He was the battering ram that completely wore down defenses in the fourth quarter. And then, a pop. A season ended in agonizing pain. He had to stand there and watch his brothers hoist the Lombardi from the sidelines. The emotional weight of that, coupled with the absolute terror of a grueling rehab, casts a very long, very dark shadow over the start of this 2026 season.
But the sheer willpower required to be great in this league, it's staggering. At mandatory minicamp, the media was absolutely shocked by what they saw. While the rest of the team was geared up, warming up on the main field, there was Charbonnet, wearing a hoodie over sweatpants in flat running shoes out on the grass. He went through 15 solid minutes of high-knee hurdler steps. He executed lateral movements and low-impact drills with the team trainer. It was literally a race against time happening right there in the misty Seattle morning. It was this incredibly vivid visual representation of a man just flat-out refusing to let his career be derailed by biology.
But Seattle's management is cold, and they are highly calculating. They aren't leaving a single thing to chance, no matter how hard Charbonnet works out there. The NFL waits for literally no one, so they've built a very strict contingency plan. Currently, George Hollaney is rotating as the minicamp starter, but they also went out and drafted rookie Jadarian Price to inject some young, explosive talent into that room. And they brought in newcomer Emmanuel Wilson. They are actively stockpiling depth to survive the early weeks of the season while their 12-touchdown star heals up. The message from the front office is crystal clear. The train is moving forward with or without you.
Conclusion: this Super Bowl window. What we are witnessing here is the incredibly fragile, high-stakes ecosystem of managing an NFL dynasty defense. The window for championships in this league doesn't slowly close. It slams shut, often right when you least expect it. This is the ultimate balancing act. You have to navigate the massive cap hits of elite quarterback contracts, keeping a guy like Darnold hungry but totally committed. You got to dig deep and find the loose change in the couch cushions to pay crucial role players like Eric Saubert, the guys who actually make the critical blocks on the final play of the game. And you have to constantly pour resources into injury replacements and depth to survive catastrophic losses like Zach Charbonnet's ACL tear. It is a relentless, high-wire act of money, health, and discovering hidden gems in the rough. One misstep, one bad contract, one poor draft pick, and the dynasty crumbles before it even truly begins.
Everything changed in a matter of seconds. An edge rusher chipped, a knee giving out on the turf, a contract signed in the dark of night. Defending a Super Bowl title isn't some fun victory lap. It is a grueling war of attrition. And let me tell you, as these players sweat through the grueling drills of mandatory minicamp, the hardest part of building a dynasty isn't the parade. It begins right now. This story is far from over.
Which leaves us staring down a really heavy, lingering question as we approach the kickoff of the 2026 season. Can Seattle afford the true price of a dynasty? Can they navigate the egos, the brutal injuries, and the unforgiving salary cap to do the impossible and repeat? I really want to hear your thoughts on this. Let me know in the comments below if you think the Seahawks window is still wide open or if the cracks are already starting to show. If you love this deep dive explainer, you know exactly what to do. Subscribe to NFL Nexus, like this explainer, drop a comment, and take that next step by becoming a channel member to support this kind of detailed cinematic analysis. Until next time, keep your eyes on the turf. This season is a lot closer than you think.